Unbelievable scenes in Spain as Barcelona absolutely demolished Real Madrid 4-0 at the Bernabeu. In the Premier League, Arsenal draw 2-2 against Liverpool. Over in Italy, complete chaos as Inter Milan and Juventus draw 4-4 after Inter threw away a two-goal lead. And Manchester United, well, they're still in free fall, yet another loss. Stay tuned for this and much more on today's football episode of Sporting Myths. हेलो गाइस, वेलकम टू एन ऑल न्यू एपिसोड ऑफ स्पोर्टिंग मिथ्स। मेरे साथ मौजूद हैं वलीद अहमद और अहमद तारिक। आज हम फुटबॉल डिस्कस करेंगे। मैं थोड़ी सी इंट्रोडक्शन करवाता चलूँ इससे पहले कि लोग हमारे कमेंट्स में आगे कहें ये फुटबॉल पे क्यों कमेंट कर रहे हैं, तो क्रिकेट पे कमेंट करते हैं। सो फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल आई विल स्टार्ट ऑफ विद अहमद तारिक। जब मैं 2014 में पीटीवी के लिए फुटबॉल कवरेज करता था वर्ल्ड कप की, उसके अलावा मल्टीपल कवरेजेस दैट आई हैव डन अक्रॉस ए स्पोर्ट्स वगैरह, उसमें अहमद तारिक वाज हेल्पिंग मी बिहाइंड द सीन्स। एंड अहमद तारिक को बहुत मुश्किल से कैमरे के आगे लाने के लिए कन्विंस करना पड़ा, जिसमें वलीद प्लेड अ ह्यूज रोल। अहमद तारिक को अभी भी लगता था कि वो बिहाइंड द सीन्स हमें रिसर्च करके दे देंगे और वीडियोस बनाकर दे देंगे, बट हिज नॉलेज इज गुड इनफ टू कम ऑन कैमरा एंड शो हिज फेस फाइनली। और उसकी शक्ल है भी अच्छी, तो दैट प्लेज अ पार्ट इन इट एज वेल। Secondly, I'll move on to Waleed. Waleed is an absolute wizard when it comes to sports marketing. Waleed ki understanding of social media, digital media, how teams use it, how franchise teams use it, how sports teams use it, and uski commercial value kya aati hai is top notch. And Waleed has worked with multiple franchises. So there's that. दूसरी चीज़ ये है कि वलीद सक्सेस मेजर करता है ऑन द नंबर ऑफ क्लिक्स दैट अ टीम गेट्स, नॉट हाउ दे परफॉर्म ऑन द फील्ड. That is why he thinks Manchester United की success over the last few years has been really high, क्योंकि पॉगबा की वीडियो को क्लिक्स ज़्यादा मिले थे जितने यूनाइटेड के पॉइंट्स थे. So Waleed was very happy about it. So there's that. And today we're going to do a deep dive into the El Clasico. We're going to talk about the Derby d'Italia. We are also going to talk about Arsenal and Liverpool, among many other things. And of course, Manchester United losing once again. So I'll hand it over to AT now and talk about Manchester United first. El Clasico हम थोड़ा बाद में डिस्कस करेंगे क्योंकि I'm still recovering from it. So let's start with Manchester United versus West
Wait a
Ham.
second.
So
Why is
one,
your
yeah,
recovery? Why is your recovery more important than like our recovery as a whole? Like
Real
this El Clasico?
Real Madrid lost after 42 games. It's a rare occurrence. ठीक है. Manchester United lose almost every week.
अच्छा, so
ठीक
it
है, तो
hurt.
मेरी शॉक वैल्यू ज्यादा है. तो
नहीं तो
अच्छा, so
देखें, being a sports marketing guy, we should start from the high, which is the highest shock value, which is the El Clasico. यूनाइटेड हारती रहती है और मतलब जलील होके भी हारती रहती है, बट 4-0 होके जलील होना इज एट डिफरेंट लेवल. वी नो बिकॉज हम लिवरपूल से काफ़ी ज़्यादा हार रहे हैं आजकल. सो and in terms of bitterness, I think the rivalry is way higher at their Clasico. So I do think let's give it its share time. I'm reasonably sure कि यूनाइटेड के रोने कोई भी नहीं सुनना चाहता. So let's maybe park a little 2-minute segment right at the end.
fair enough.
Just
रेहान
like
मुझे
our
एक बात
position on the
बताओ.
table, right at the end.
रेहान, बिफोर द क्या कहते हैं मैच एल क्लासिको, हम लोग की बात हो रही थी and Mbappe was the best player on the planet at that point in time, and I'm sure you're sticking to your guns right now. It's not like you to move away from that उसके हिसाब से. बट मुझे एक बात बताओ कि वो जो ये हुआ था और फिर उसके बाद ऑफसाइड हो गया था, तुम्हारे ठक मैसेजेस आए थे मुझे कि यार ये देखो कौन है किंग, एंड इज डाउन फ्रॉम देयर एंड 8 offsides, which is a new record. And मतलब जब ऑन साइड होता था तो गोल नहीं होता था, जब ऑफ साइड होता था गोल हो जाता था. एंड दिस वाज पॉइंटेडली रिपीटेडली पॉइंटेड आउट. मुझे बताओ कि लाइक यार क्या हाउ आर यू लाइक जस्टिफाइंग टू अटैकर्स नाउ जो कि बिल्कुल आगे खड़े होते हैं और कुछ नहीं कर रहे होते, लाइक नो ट्रैकिंग बैक, ये फलाना द बैलेंस द Madrid side had last year was significantly better, I feel, in comparison to what they have right now. And a lot of people have started calling for Ancelotti's head right now, even though I don't understand इसका तो क्या इतने chances बनाए उन्होंने. इतनी stupid बात है कि आप Ancelotti के ऊपर ये किस तरह इल्जाम डाल सकते हो. But what is the way to navigate this now?
I think इसमें तीन चार very important factors हैं. Even last year when Real Madrid until January, there was this opinion in Spanish press और Spain के अंदर in general भी कि are they actually this good, because वो results उनके आ रहे थे and it was a lot had to do with Jude Bellingham आके last minute पे goal कर देता था. They did not play as well. 90 minutes को कोई इतना अच्छा match, outstanding match नहीं खेले थे. And up till January you thought कि यार there are chinks in the armor, and despite them only losing one game to Atletico Madrid, but once January came around and Ancelotti figured out कि उसने कैसे खेलना है, and Vinny Junior gained his form और injuries से भी वापस आ रहा था वो, तो then Madrid went on a different tangent. One thing is for sure, अगर आप Madrid को follow करते हैं तो you can never be guaranteed a complete game जहाँ पे वो 90 minutes जो है वो dominate करें. There's always this sense of chaos, and especially in Ancelotti teams ये बहुत होता है. Ancelotti teams अगर आप AC Milan उठाकर देख लें, when AC Milan used to
Yeah.
only play well in the Champions League and Serie A में वो कुछ नहीं करते थे. Even then there was this chaos involved in an Ancelotti team because he's a very player reliant coach. He lets his players like tactically he's very good, but still he lets his players roam around. It's not positional play. Positional play आजकल आज की फुटबॉल में positional play के ऊपर ज्यादा focus किया जाता है. You've seen the likes of
Yeah.
Xabi Alonso, Pep Guardiola, Arteta, all these guys, they go for positional play. Whereas Ancelotti is more player oriented. Even एक टाइम पे 3 बंदे जो हैं वो एक ही पोजीशन के ऊपर खेल रहे होंगे एंड उनका लिंक अप प्ले हो रहा होगा. So he allows that freedom to his players. So sometimes it looks like chaos, but if anyone can find a way to egos को manage करना, that is Ancelotti. That's number one. Number two is people forget the fact के how good Barca have been this season. Like this
Yeah.
4-0 is a surprise, but Barca winning should not be a surprise because Barca have been absolutely amazing to watch this season. Like this is they're not playing like per se wo wali Barca ke tiki taka and all of that. Not per se that, because there's a lot of directness to their play. There's a lot of counter attacking football that they do now. But this sense that Barca can now actually trouble you exists. Like last season, both Clásicos, even the first one, Barcelona were the better team for around 65, 70 minutes.
Yeah.
And then, they were leading as well. Bellingham scored out of nowhere. Then Bellingham scored a winner. So even in that game, there was this sense of that Barca were dominating, but you saw that, this is not sustainable. And eventually, Madrid will find a way. Whereas, in this game, they did not start as well. But as the game progressed, you saw that they have so many options. Like the attacking options they have at their disposal right now are unreal. And one of the things that you have to give credit to Barcelona for is that बार्सिलोना की सक्सेस व्हेनेवर दे बीन अ सक्सेसफुल टीम, अगर आप उनकी 90s की ड्रीम टीम हो या राइकार्ड के पहले कुछ सीजन्स हो या पेप ग्वार्डियोला जब आए थे या लुइस एनरिके, so you've always had star players like even in the 90s team, Pep, जो क्रॉइफ की ड्रीम टीम थी उसमें भी स्टार प्लेयर्स थे. पेप की टीम में the first season he had players like Eto'o and Henry, and then the front three of Neymar, Suarez and Messi when
Sanchez, David
Enrique.
Villa,
Yeah.
Sanchez, David Villa, सारे आ गए थे.
So Enrique भी जब जीता था तो they had the best front three in the world, but they all the success is based off products from their academy La Masia. So उस
Yeah.
academy से अब the thing that Flick has done is integrated a lot of them, which जो चावी ने already start कर दिया. Let's be fair to Chavi had already started this, but the number of La Masia players that are coming through is, I think the depth is unparalleled. इससे पहले भी 2-3 फेजेस आए ला मसीहा के जहाँ पे उनके काफी प्लेयर्स एकेडमी से आए हैं, बट द नंबर ऑफ प्लेयर्स, लाइक द क्वालिटी ऑफ प्लेयर्स एट दैट टाइम वाज हायर देन now, but the number of players, quality players that are coming through their academy right now is insane. Like Casado is one example. Like उसके अलावा उनके
Fermin Lopez,
Fermin
Fermin
Lopez,
Lopez,
although Fermin Lopez,
Pinion.
I have very differing views on Fermin Lopez.
I
He's
agree, but
yeah,
Pedri, Gavi, Pina, ये सारे
Kubasi.
इनके Kubarsi, they're all their youth products at this point
Yeah.
in time.
Although Pedri was signed later, but yeah, he did play in the academy for a
Came through
while.
the ranks.
But the thing with what Flick has done is कि Lewandowski जैसे player जिसका last year इतना अच्छा नहीं गया था, and everyone saying that he's on the downhill, उसकी resurgence is under Flick. And under Flick जब वो Bayern Munich में भी था तो his performances were through the roof. Like I think Lewandowski के अपने career में बहुत ही कम off seasons गए होंगे. Last season was one of those. But if
Yeah.
one man he loves working with is Flick, and Flick ने has gotten the best out of him. जहाँ तक एम्बापे की बात है या विनी जूनियर की बात है, एम्बापे फॉर एग्जांपल, लाइक अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल रेज दिस पॉइंट के एम्बापे में आकड़ है और XYZ है और ये है और वो है. आई थिंक ये बहुत ही मुझे लगता है इंग्लिश स्कूल ऑफ थॉट है, इंग्लिश फुटबॉल स्कूल ऑफ थॉट है। मैं उसको आपकी एग्जांपल देता हूँ कि जब कोई इंग्लिश प्लेयर वर्ल्ड कप के फाइनल में हैट्रिक कर लेगा या एक वर्ल्ड कप के फाइनल में गोल करेगा और उसकी टीम जीत जाएगी, या जब वो एक स्पेक्टेकुलर कमबैक अगेंस्ट अर्जेंटीना इन अ नॉकआउट मैच कर लेगा, तो देन वी कैन टॉक अबाउट देम। बट एम्बापे, यस ही वाज ऑफ कलर, डिड नॉट टाइम हिज रन्स एज वेल, बट उसकी प्लेयरी पे तो जीरो डाउट है, विनी की भी प्लेयरी पे जीरो डाउट है। सिस्टमैटिकली मैड्रिड आर फेलिंग, देयर इज नो
Yeah,
बैलेंस, there is no balance to the team. There are too many runners with the ball. Like Valverde will run with the ball. Like Bellingham runs with the ball. Even Chouameni and Camavinga are not players who distribute the ball as well. They are more of running with the ball type players.
yeah,
There's a lot of physicality in that team, but the finesse is missing right now in the midfield. Someone who can slow the game down. Because right now Madrid का लगता है कि either they're playing at 120 or they're
which
playing
they're
at
not.
20. So
Yeah,
I mean the balance has to be found, and that puts a lot of pressure on your Valverde, क्योंकि जब सारी टीम आगे चली जाती है, Valverde is the only one who's running, and eventually he will break down if this continues. So that balance needs to be found, and eventually I feel के वो balance इस तरह आएगा कि Bellingham will have to drop down and play as an 8 rather than as a 10 or a wide
original
right.
Bellingham,
Yeah.
original Bellingham.
यानी पीपल फॉरगेट के बेलिंगम को उन्होंने, अगर आपने लास्ट एक या दो सीजन देखे हैं तो आपको लगेगा वो नंबर 10 है या ही इज जॉइनिंग इन द फ्रंट 3 और द फ्रंट 4। बेलिंगम
Yeah,
एसेंशियली इज अ बॉक्स टू बॉक्स नंबर 8 टाइप प्लेयर जिसकी
100%.
डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन स्किल्स आर आल्सो देयर। सो इफ eventually Madrid may have to revert to that, that will obviously mean के sacrificing Bellingham's involvement in goals, assists and goals के कम हो जाएंगे, not that he's scoring any goals this season, but like overall बेलिंगम जितना वर्सेटाइल प्लेयर है और वालवर्डे, मैड्रिड को बहुत बड़ा एडवांटेज है कि टू ऑफ द मोस्ट वर्सेटाइल मिडफील्डर्स आपके पास हैं हु कैन प्ले एनीवेयर। सो माइट एज वेल इवेंचुअली यूज बेलिंगम एज एट 8 इंस्टेड ऑफ putting him as a wide right or a 10 or at the front of the diamond. So that needs to be figured out, and Ancelotti by the way has done this in the past. अगर आपको
Yeah,
जो AC मिलान की फेमस क्रिसमस ट्री
yes.
फॉर्मेशन याद हो, so Ancelotti can pull this off. Obviously, it is Madrid, so there will be a lot of pressure on him. There already is. It's piling on. Especially अगर आप Clásico हार जाओ तो Madrid में तो it feels like it's the end of the world. So I mean, I've gone on for way too long, but it's just
I
that this
think
was a huge, huge game.
आई थिंक जो मैं सिर्फ इस पे जो फ्रॉम व्हाट यू सेड, आई थिंक जो मेरी नज़र में एक चीज़ आती है, सबसे पहला जो बिग मिस दिस लाइक जो मुझे अभी एल क्लासिको में सबसे ज़्यादा महसूस हुआ था, वो ये था टोनी क्रूस नॉट बीइंग देयर टू कंट्रोल द पेस ऑफ द गेम। ह्यूज डिफरेंस मेकर, बिकॉज अब कैमा बॉल पकड़ता है, भागना शुरू कर देता है. Valverde was just like desperately trying to get the game moving, and that's when you realize like somebody who could just control the tempo a bit and it could keep these people in line was a big difference maker. But uske saath, I would say one thing कि like you're talking about Mbappe obviously and systematic failure लग रहा है इस वक्त, but last year जब Rodrigo होता था ना, he would make up for Vinny's lack of effort at one point जहाँ पे like वो जान मार देता था to cover for his end of the mistake. And eventually, you're right that something has to give, because if you're playing two strikers who are in the peak of their powers, they both feel entitled कि यार हमें पीछे ट्रैक बैक करने की क्या जरूरत है, बाकी सारे तो जा रहे हैं, हमें क्यों करना होता है. अब किसी को बुलेट लेनी पड़ेगी एंड somebody has to decide कि अच्छा यार एक बंदे को अपनी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी शक ऑफ करके पीछे जाना पड़ेगा. You have to track, you have to press to figure out कि अच्छा बाकी टीम को सपोर्ट करना है. And the Bellingham issue is also a very valid one, because उसकी अभी तक जगह अब इस सीजन तो बिल्कुल भी नहीं बन रही, क्योंकि वो उसको पहले राइट पे खिला रहा था, फिर उसको सेंटर भी ट्राई किया, वहां पे भी नहीं समझ आ रही. सो देयर लाइक bunch of things Ancelotti probably has to sort out, but I think blaming him as a whole for this performance is quite poor, because अगर मैच में जाने से पहले एवरी मैड्रिड फैन वाज कॉन्फिडेंट कि भाई फ्लिक अगर ये हाईलाइन खिलाएगा ना हमारे अटैक के खिलाफ, तो फिर तो हम इनके अंदर घुस के निकल जाएंगे, इनको पता भी नहीं चलेगा इनके साथ क्या हुआ है. But the pressure that they were exerting for most part of the game, हाँ अगर शुरू में एक आधा गोल निकल जाता, things would have been different. But I don't see Flick did the same against Barcelona, and it was beautiful the way they dismantled Bayern Munich, and it was beautiful the way they dismantled that Bayern side. And उन्होंने बैक टू बैक अगर मिड वीक एंड इसमें उन्होंने तो करके दिखा दिया कि हाई इंटेंसिटी प्रेस और हमने काउंटर को खेलना है, एंड इट्स वर्कड आउट वेल फॉर वलीद. और मैं दोनों ये मैच देख रहे थे, और वलीद और मेरा सिर्फ ये रिएक्शन था कि यार हम यूनाइटेड सपोर्टर्स होके क्या कर रहे हैं. नहीं, हमें ये philosophies are integrated so quickly with teams, और हमें अभी तक बताया जा रहा है कि 3 साल प्रोजेक्ट है, और वलीद इज द बिगेस्ट एडवोकेट ऑफ लाइक दिस प्रोजेक्ट टेकिंग टाइम. सो वलीद, जब आप इनको देखते हैं तो फिर आपको क्या लगता है कि हमारा प्रोजेक्ट कहाँ तक पहुंचा हुआ है इससे फिर?
यार मैं फिर दोबारा डिफ्लेक्ट करूंगा एंड आई विल टॉक अबाउट बारसा फर्स्ट. 2022 2022 में दीज गाइस सोल्ड पता नहीं कितने फाइनेंशियल लीवर्स इन्होंने बेचे. मतलब सब कुछ अपना बेच दिया, अपने पजामे भी बेच दिए, निकरें भी बेच दी. बट and मैं बड़ा एक्साइटेड हुआ था because growing up I've come to hate that Barca team, Barca squad. Why? Because United के दो Champions League खाए गए वहाँ पे. Deservedly they were 100% better team, and also with Ronaldo moving over there, of course हर United fan की दूसरी number 1 team Madrid ही होती है. But I really thought they would be in a very very difficult space. I mean, if you just look at their squad, कि ये यहाँ से वापस आ पाएंगे. But last season's result fantastic, and this season as well they have really set the pace. 6 point का difference अभी से आ गया between themselves and Madrid. And when you look at their squad, the average age, the people who are performing, the people who are stepping up, या तो बहुत ज़्यादा outperform कर रहे हैं, या there's something that Flick and managers like him who are elite are able to come in and set the right tone for their squads. 37 गोल मार दिए इस सीजन में जस्ट इन द लीग. दैट्स crazy number, and I think कुछ 14-15 गोल पीछे है Madrid, and it seems like everybody else is now just fighting for the second place.
Yeah, I think
मतलब
Waleed, one of the things the levers वाली तुमने बात की, one of the great things about Spanish football is कि 9 times out of 10 Spanish football में systematically अगर आप कुछ अच्छा करने जा रहे हो तो यूजुअली उसका रिजल्ट नहीं आता, बिकॉज समथिंग स्पेनिश फुटबॉल के अंदर हमेशा कुछ होता है. इफ़ यू फॉलो स्पेनिश फुटबॉल रेगुलरली तो उनकी एफ ए इज़ अ कंप्लीट जोक.
yeah,
One story that I love is ke Spain might not have won Euro. Like people talk about how successful Spanish teams have been over the last 14
yeah,
15 years, and they think that it's out of design. But most of it, like design, yes, like they concentrate on making teams, not players, but not just by design, it's by accident as well. Like एक
yeah,
इनका I think कोई मैच हो रहा था स्पेन का, I forget Georgia के against or somewhere, where there was a logistical disaster and players के जूते नहीं पहुंचे थे उनको. Like this is not a joke. They actually forgot to send players their shoes to play the match.
yeah,
And that's how Inaki Williams and Lamine Yamal ended up playing
yeah,
on the wing. And before that, they did not have wingers, like wide wingers unke nahi the. And suddenly, when they went into the Euro, they were playing with wide players and who were attacking, and also, it worked for them. Similarly, Barcelona and Real Madrid are clubs, who excel in complete utter chaos. Agar you follow their history and all, so if Barcelona wins 20 league titles, right? And on 20 league titles, can the Madrid have won 21? So that's not success. If Barcelona have won the league and Madrid have won the Champions League, it's not success. The success of both clubs is based on what the other club is doing. One of the major reasons why Messi and Ronaldo, जो उनकी rivalry थी, वो इस level तक पहुंची and they both challenged each other is because it was part of the Clásico. It was part of Real Madrid, Barcelona, two of the biggest clubs in the world, two of the biggest players in the world, and it was just relentless.
yeah.
And वही होता है कि success measure in clubs में ऐसे होती है कि दूसरे club में क्या हो रहा है. So, the financial levers वाली जो चीज वलीद बोल रहा है is one of the things is कि Barcelona wanted to again be one of the title challengers, wanted to challenge for La Liga and the Champions League. And Laporta जब भी वो प्रेसिडेंट के लिए आते हैं तो वो कोई ऐसे शोशा छोड़ के ही आते हैं, जिस तरह वो पहले जब 2004 के करीब जब आए थे तब उन्होंने कहा था मैं बेकम साइन करूंगा, eventually signed Ronaldinho, and
Yeah.
he has he's very savvy with the media as well. So those financial levers are not the reason Barca are doing well. Barca are doing well because they got La Masia products coming through and they signed good players. Like they wanted to get rid of Frankie de Jong, the guy who changed the game at halftime. They wanted to get rid of Rafinha. They've tried really hard. Rafinha has probably been one of their 3 best players this season.
Yeah.
They have उन्होंने गुंडोगॉन को साइन किया, उसके बाद निकाल दिया टीम से, वो आया वो चला गया. It was his dream move. So many players over the last 2-3 years have come to Barcelona from other clubs, like big signings, and they've just left. One of the two of the best signings I feel के जो उन्होंने किए हैं in recent times, और आप उसका रिजल्ट देखें, Dani Olmo is a huge signing. I know people will
100%.
say he's not 21 22 any longer, but Dani Olmo can turn a game at halftime. He can come on, he can play as a 10, and he's a running 10, like जो perfect फ्लिक टीम में आपको 10 चाहिए होता है ना, वो कर
Yeah.
सकता है कि he can drift out wide, he can press and all of that. And one of the biggest differences between in this game between Barca and Madrid is अगर आप बारसा का गोल देखें फर्स्ट, तो basically Barca beat Madrid's offside trap, right? And the reason they are allowed to beat that trap is there is no pressure on the person with the ball कि उस पे press नहीं हो रहा, तो he has time to pick out that pass and Lewandowski is clever enough and slow enough also कि
Yes,
he
to
can bend
not
his
ever
run.
get past it. Yeah.
So he can bend his run and then he can, go through on goal. So, I mean, Madrid can't play a high line because they don't press. Barca can play a high line because all of them press, and Lewandowski probably is the exception, but even uski pressing is quite impressive. Now, जब इस मैच से पहले all the talk was about playing a high line, flick high line खेलता, and I came across one of the craziest stats that I've seen. This season in Europe's top 5 leagues, आफ्टर द क्लासिको बार्सिलोना के खिलाफ 85 प्लस ऑफसाइड्स हुए हैं, 85 प्लस. द सेकंड हाईएस्ट अक्रॉस यूरोप टॉप 5 लीग्स इज ब्राइटन एट 35.
Yeah.
50 का डिफरेंस है. अगर 50 का डिफरेंस है देन दे आर डूइंग समथिंग राइट. ठीक है.
100%.
So, yes, sometimes the offside trap will look completely foolish. Sometimes you will be completely like, there were periods in the Bayern Munich game when you thought, okay, what are they actually doing? There were
Yeah.
periods in the first half in the Clásico where you were like, sooner or later ये destroy हो जाएंगे. Especially Vinny when he went through on goal, he could have scored himself, could have passed it to Mbappe, shot wide. But like those occasions, you hold your head up and you're like, यार ये क्या कर रहे हैं? But the risk and reward from flick is very high. The risk is that you get exposed at the back. The reward is that you win the ball higher up the pitch.
And
You
you're
can
constantly
break quicker.
attacking.
Yeah, and you can break quicker. Like जब आप बॉल छीनोगे तो आपकी टीम के 3-4 प्लेयर विल बी ahead of the ball and दूसरी टीम के भी सेम नंबर ऑफ प्लेयर्स होंगे, तो वन ऑन वन सिचुएशंस क्रिएट होंगी which then gives advantage to players like Lamine Yamal, Rafinha. These players can run past people. This is not like one of the old Barca teams who will win the ball up, then recycle the ball
Yeah.
and then start again. This is very direct, very vertical style of football. In between, they go to old Barca with the likes of Pedri
Yes.
and Lamine Yamal जब अपने फ्लिक्स मारना शुरू करता है. मैंने तो बायर्न म्यूनिख के वाले मैच में one of the things that Pedri और Lamine Yamal when they were passing to each other, it was unbelievable to watch. And I'm a huge fan of Lamine Yamal. I think he's one of the best players in the top 5 players in the world for me right now, and I think
At
eventually he will.
17.
Yeah, and eventually he will be the best. Or at 17, अब मैं आपको एग्जांपल देता हूँ कि what is the difference between why English football नेशनल लेवल के ऊपर, इंटरनेशनल लेवल के ऊपर सक्सीड नहीं करती, और these countries go ahead and Spain की
या तो टॉम क्लेवरली आने लगा है अभी,
ये टॉम क्लेवरली आने लगा है,
या जैक विल्शर आने लगा है.
इनकमिंग.
मैं मैनचेस्टर यूनाइटेड का भी डिजास्टर का राज यही है जो मैं भी आपको बताने लगा हूँ. वो ये है कि जब लमीन यमाल ने तीसरा गोल किया तो ही like not figuratively, literally showed his teeth to Madrid's fans, right?
Braces.
And he has diamond braces, right? And he was showing them off, right? अगर ये चीज किसी ने मैनचेस्टर यूनाइटेड में या इंग्लैंड में की होती तो वो कहते हैं कि ये क्या कर रहे हैं, ये टिकटॉक वीडियोस बना रहे हैं, ये वो कर रहे हैं. यू रिमेंबर व्हेन रॉय कीन कंप्लीटली लॉस्ट इट, रियो फर्डिनेंड लॉस्ट इट, के ये लोग हारने के बाद भी सेलिब्रेट कर रहे हैं. यू सी दीज गाइज and they like enjoy themselves, they enjoy playing football. That's the number one reason you play football, right? To enjoy it. And some, like, you remember Ronaldinho, like always had a smile on his face and would party and everything, and one of the most delightful players I've seen, very successful. Brazilian Ronaldo, always happy, showing off skills and all of that, partying and all. Like, let them be them while being professionals. जो robotic level of someone like a Cristiano Ronaldo है, वो achieve करना is almost next to impossible. So, your skilled players need to have that little bit of liberty, little bit of, cheekiness to them as individuals. सबको अगर आप, कन्वेयर बेल्ट में से निकाल के एक जैसा बनाओगे तो इवेंचुअली आपका वही हाल होगा जो despite all the money in the world is English football. The best coaches in the world go to English football, right? They have the best resourced academies in the world, and yet they don't win major tournaments. And the reason is that they don't let players be themselves. And one of the reasons, like, people like Jude Bellingham and these guys are making their team better is because they went outside England to play football elsewhere, and that influence is coming in. And likes of Phil Foden वगैरह, ये लोग, they've played all their lives under people like Pep Guardiola, और इनके youth team के भी जो managers आ रहे हैं वो non English हैं. So there is that improvement coming in. But this idea in Spain, to in Italy, in other countries, especially, if you can't enjoy football, then there's no point of football.
Yeah, help me understand this. I think it's just interesting because we were saying that पिछले ये दो ढाई साल पे there was no genius bigger than Perez, the way he recycled the whole Madrid team, stadium भी नया बना दिया, and और जो सारे बूढ़े थे उनको निकाल के the backbone of the team was a very very fresh lot. But Laporta आ गया and it seemed like chaos में आए हैं. कोमेन को निकाल दिया, शावी आ गया, शावी को निकाल दिया, फ्लिक आ गया. In the interim, you were saying कि levers का फर्क नहीं पड़ता, but पड़ेगा eventually with financial viability of the club. But it seems like now all of a sudden Barcelona are in the ascendancy. They have the better team. They're playing the more fantastic football. और उनको पकड़ा नहीं जा रहा. And it just, I think, once again is moving the mecca of football back to Spain and back to these two great clubs. और नजर आ रहा है कि अगले 5-6 साल में these will be the teams to beat.
Yeah,
I do
like,
agree with you. Yeah.
I just think like your luck Rehan part really stands out इसके अंदर because the La Masia Academy graduates coming out at the exact time they were in peril और वो आके उन्होंने major position सारी ले ली है. Lamine Yamal is now they have the best next thing since Messi बार्सिलोना के लिए coming through. अभी Lamine Yamal आ रहा है. अभी एकदम से उसके साथ एक entire crop of midfielders आ गए हैं and defenders जिसने आके उनकी पूरी टीम को FDJ should have been playing but there are people capable of playing जो उसके जगह खेल रहे होते हैं and then Rafinha को सेटल करवा लिए बट द फैक्ट दैट द अमाउंट ऑफ टैलेंट दैट दे हैव डिस्पोजल कि उन्होंने सारे अपने जो मिस्टेक्स फॉर द लास्ट 3 years वेयर इट सीम लाइक एवरीथिंग वाज अबाउट टू फॉल ऑफ वो सारी उनकी सारी अब सही इट इज बीन रेक्टिफाइड बट नॉट बिकॉज ऑफ द सम मैनेजरियल सम प्रेसिडेंशियल जीनियस मूव्स और इस तरह से लिटरली जस्ट के राइट प्लेस राइट टाइम एंड ये इनको पता नहीं दे कीप गेटिंग अवे विद दिस रेहान
I think एक तो ये चीज़ कि it's great that both of you have said कि next 5 to 7 years Madrid and Barca are one game away from complete disaster and complete turmoil always. और ऐसा there are thousand incidents of this happening. If people forget कि they talk about the original Galacticos and original Galacticos जब Madrid के थे तो everyone talks about how they failed. If you remember the original Galacticos, the first season of original Galacticos, they were top of La Liga. They were doing extremely well in the Champions League, and they were on the verge of pulling something remarkable off, right? And then suddenly they lost one game, and after that, I think they went on the longest run in Madrid's history without
yeah
winning a single game, right? So Madrid and Barca are only always one game away from disaster, only always one game away from complete tragedy. The other thing is this timing thing about La Masia products coming through. It's how you handle them also that matters. Laporta maybe may say clownish things in the media to get away with them, but Laporta also is a genius when it comes to identifying people that he wants to bring in as coaches. He's आपको फ्रैंक राइकार्ड से लेकर अभी फ्लिक तक his decisions on getting the right people, the right coaches in have been top notch. बार्टोमेयो ने तो बिल्कुल ही डिस्ट्रॉय कर दिया था इनका एक टाइम पर, बट पोर्ता को आपको ये क्रेडिट देना चाहिए कि ही नोज हाउ टू गेट द बेस्ट पीपल इन द बेस्ट पोजीशंस. अगर उसको खुद कुछ नहीं पता तो ही विल गेट द राइट पीपल इन द राइट प्लेसेस. दैट यू हैव टू गिव क्रेडिट टू Laporta फॉर. द अदर थिंग इज इंटीग्रेशन ऑफ दीज प्लेयर्स. अब ये प्लेयर्स अगर आप सिर्फ अकेले डाल दें और इनके इर्द गिर्द आपके पास जूल्स कुंडे ना हो और इनके इर्द गिर्द आपके पास फॉर एग्जांपल लेवेंडोव्स्की ना हो, तो दे माइट नॉट बी एज सक्सेसफुल. As far as the average age is concerned, I completely agree with Waleed that there is this ingredient at both Madrid and Barca जहाँ पे उनकी आप squad की ages देखें तो none of them have hit their peaks yet. Like Lamine Yamal hasn't hit his peak. Vinny Jr., although contender for Ballon d'Or, it hasn't hit his peak. Bellingham still has a lot of time. Mbappe may be nearing his peak, but Valverde and all these other guys, Camavinga, उनकी side पे आ जाएं, Pedri, Gavi, Kubarsi, all these guys, Lamine Yamal, they still have to hit their peak. So, like, this is dangerous for the rest of the world. The problem that Barcelona will have is how will they keep a hold of these players? Because जब वेज बिल इनका ऑलरेडी वेज बिल के ह्यूज इश्यूज हैं, epic huge issues of wage bills, and somehow they have gotten away with not paying players not getting paid, still desperately wanting to stay at Barcelona. right? Players know that if we sign for Barcelona, we might never get paid, but they want to sign for Barcelona. That's the kind of pull that Madrid and Barcelona have, which some other clubs may think they have, but actually वो pull इन दो clubs के पास है. And वो उसकी वजह से they get away with a lot of stuff. So there's that, but yeah, for football overall, it is important that Barcelona is a good team. It is important कि Real and Barca का Clásico जो है is high quality. Because to be honest, Madrid lost 4-0 to a Xavi team a couple of years ago. And for losing 4-0 to a Xavi team a couple of years ago, but that did not feel the same. It still felt that Madrid will get the better of them. This
Yeah.
victory feels different. This victory feels like a corner being turned. But don't be surprised at the end of the season if Madrid or Barca, one of the two teams, completely loses the plot. I will not be
Yeah.
surprised. Either of them have the potential to do so. Implosion बहुत करीब होती है because the number of people involved in the backroom staff. वहां पर ये नहीं होता कि एक कोच है उसके ऊपर आप सब कुछ डाल दो. There are a lot of people involved and there's a huge chance of completely losing the plot. So I'm really glad that Barcelona and Madrid Clásicos can now be that way. Because last season's Clásicos, I'll be honest with you, Madrid won both, but they were extremely
Yeah.
unclassico Clásicos, like boring games, did not have the same spark. I
But
mean, मजा ही नहीं आया. लमीन यमाल ने 2 फ्लिक मारे, मुझे फील आ गई कि वो क्लासिको है. So
वो
there's
सब
that, like the
ठीक है,
quality has.
लेकिन हमें क्यों, why are we catching stray bullets right now? I don't understand. हम बीच में से कहाँ से, like why? Please यार, stand up for yourself. What is going on?
नहीं पर्सनल हो यार. फेयर इनफ. आई थिंक एक और अब आगे चलते हैं एंड टॉप ऑफ द टेबल क्लैशेस की दोबारा बात करते हैं. English Premier League, spicy little race happening at the top, 3 teams in it. We thought Arsenal were shoo-in to give City the run, but now they're on third. Liverpool creeping to second place, very solid, unfortunately, and City right there as expected on the top. So 80, you were our main guy covering the match, the spicy little match happening. जिसमें लग रहा था कि Liverpool might chug along and still be at top of the table, but a very hard fought 2-2 draw.
Yeah, it's just really funny कि like जब भी इन लोगों के आपस में matches होते हैं ना, there's only usually one winner and that's Manchester City. I don't know how this always pans out, but हमेशा Manchester City comes out the winner for their clashes. Going into the match, I'm not going to divulge into the refereeing shambles because there's an acceptance that Premier League के refereeing standards are shit and they apply unilaterally all over the league. So we move on from that because अगर मैं रोना शुरू करूंगा यूनाइटेड की पेनल्टी के ऊपर तो फिर तो बहुत लंबी कहानी हो जाएगी. But I think the most important thing is कि narrative आर्सेनल ने अपने आप को full underdogs बनाया हुआ था इस मैच में जाने से पहले because they were like हमारी तो इतनी इंजरीज है, ये टिम्बर नहीं है, क्या कहते हैं कैलाफियोरी इंजर्ड है, सलीबा रेड कार्ड है, साका खेल नहीं रहा. मैच शुरू हुआ है, साका भी स्क्वाड के अंदर था और टिम्बर भी स्क्वाड के अंदर था. It turns out Liverpool had the worst of it because ना एलिसन बेकर खेल रहा था and ना योटा खेल रहा था. So like they're like key personnel जो उनके नहीं थे. बट आर्सेनल फैन ने कहा नहीं जी ओडेगार्ड नहीं था, हम नहीं मानेंगे कि अगर हम इसको नहीं जीते तो नहीं हो सकता इसके ऊपर. But it was a great match. I love watching Bukayo Saka play because yaar wo banda, the way he just does things, it's so simple. Like his movements, आप टीवी पे देखते हो कहते हो यार ये बंदा किस तरह कट गया. Robertson, he skinned Robertson with the shoulder drop and just the timing of everything that he does is impeccable. And this Arsenal side need him to stay on top, to stay in the running for the league because what he adds to the team, I don't think like एक तरफ साका है और बाकी पूरी टीम मेरे लिए एक जगह पे, that's his value. But at the same time बात वही आ जाती है कि Arsenal 2-1 up, looked like they were going to hold up well, somehow crumbled and ended up with 2-2. And this is in follow-up to the Bournemouth match last year where I really respect what Arteta's done with the क्या कहते हैं, Arsenal and the revolution he's brought on, but starting like 6 defenders against Bournemouth did not make sense last season. Saliba red के बाद they completely collapsed and 3-0 उधर हार गए. And now this match where they look like they had control and they should have won it because if you're going to be challenging for the league and if you're in the ascendancy, हाँ डिसीजंस होते हैं, ऊपर नीचे जाते हैं, दैट्स फाइन, बट if you're truly one of those teams, then you should be in contention to be winning these games, not drawing them out. मतलब इतना बुरा Liverpool weren't as good as anybody was making, and Arsenal had their shot, had their moment, and they could have held out, but again they choked it. Sort of वो जो कहते हैं bottle नहीं है. And for me, this is a choke. I don't know what anybody else would say because Arsenal fans बहुत ज़्यादा गालियाँ देते होते हैं, तो मुझे उनसे डर ही लगता है थोड़ा सा. But I genuinely feel that they should have won this match, and it was there for their taking. 2-1 up at halftime, and Liverpool weren't, Arsenal weren't giving them an inch, and somehow at the match ends, Salah को goal मिल गया 2-2 खत्म.
You think
Yeah, well,
कि
I kind of
sorry, go.
one thing I'd kind of disagree with the fact that it was a great game to watch.
It wasn't.
Scoreline was flattering, in my opinion. From the 43rd minute to the 81st minute, I was looking up some XG stats and it was horrible. Both teams did not create much. Um, I do believe कि आर्सेनल का मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट प्लेयर इस सीजन इंजर्ड है इज उडगार्ड. वो इंजर्ड है इस सीजन. आई थिंक ही इज देयर मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट प्लेयर बिकॉज ही इज देयर प्रेसिंग ट्रिगर एंड ही बेसिकली व्हेन आर्सेनल प्लेइंग अटैकिंग फुटबॉल तो उसके बगैर वो उतनी अटैकिंग उतनी फ्लुएंट फुटबॉल नहीं खेल सकते. ही इज लिंक अप प्ले इज एब्सोल्युटली वर्ल्ड क्लास एंड देन ही हैज दैट पास टू get through defenses. So now because he's not there, so they have to play a more defensive style of football, which they've done this season, which is very different to what you associate normally with Arsenal. They started doing it last season as well, but this season you've seen more of it. The other thing is कि one credit that you have to give to Arteta is the fact कि उसने एक siege mentality create किया around the club, which is very similar to what Sir Alex Ferguson used to do back in the day. Then Jose Mourinho became a master at it. कि सारी दुनिया हमारे खिलाफ है, हम इकट्ठे रहें तो हम जीत सकते हैं. I think that plays a very important role in how your teams play. I think Arteta has done a fabulous job at doing that. But yeah, injuries have played a part in it, and Arsenal will be regretting the fact that they were, I think, 90th minute tak they were leading in City. They
Yeah.
gave up that lead against Liverpool. They could have closed the game down. I think they became too defensive, and when they needed to, become defensive after the 80th minute, they had a higher line than they were supposed to. So I think वो decisions over time उनको correct करनी पड़ेंगी. But these are games that like वो अगर Arsenal City वाला match they held out और ये वाला match they held out, so they could have been top of the table and we would have been talking about them as completely favorites for the title. Whereas right now we are only talking about them as maybe not there. So that's very important कि वो crucial moments जो होती हैं एक league season के अंदर are these matches like 80 plus minute onwards. आप 80 मिनट बकवास मैच खेल लो और आप एंड में 2 गोल मार दो तो it
Nobody
suddenly,
remembers that.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's how it works. I mean, I remember so many matches over the years, like historical matches, जहाँ पर our teams played absolutely horribly and then ended up winning. Like Madrid तो इसकी best example है कि they 80 minutes में वो कुछ नहीं करते और फिर वो
99 United.
yeah, 99 का United, Chelsea when they beat Bayern Munich in the Champions League
Yeah.
final. But at the end वो victory remember की जाती है. So yeah, and Waleed, what are your thoughts on Slot so far, and what do you think of how he's setting up his Liverpool team?
यार seamless transition. I think कोई ज़्यादा tactical changes नहीं आए. Minus that move to put Gravenberch at the back of the midfield. बहुत ज़्यादा स्टेबिलिटी आ गई टीम को. मुझे पर्सनली फील हो रहा है कि शायद थोड़ा सा ओवर परफॉर्म कर रहे हैं इस वक्त. And just looking at the depth of their squad, I think 1 or 2 injuries away from it falling apart and then City going on to win their fourth. But अच्छा लग रहा है that it's a tight little race at the top of the table. But sort of boring भी हो गया, of course, क्योंकि अपना तो कोई दूर दूर तक सीन नहीं है. और just like it's so horrible to choose between Liverpool and City as to who will win the title. And
Clicks
unfortunately
किसको
it will
ज्यादा
be
मिलेंगे
City.
अगर जीत गए?
Clicks Liverpool को
Liverpool.
मिलेंगे अगर जीत गए, लेकिन अब क्या करें यार. It's really depressing. I do think squad थोड़ी सी tight है for Liverpool, and it's just so frustrating as a United fan to be seeing these matches जहाँ पे लोग top of the table पे लड़ रहे हैं. I do have a question on Odegaard though. Uh, left Madrid on a low. अब आज का Odegaard, does he still start in that Madrid lineup or would he still be on the bench?
He's not a Madrid type player. He's
Hmm.
a wonderful, wonderful player, and I think if you ask me, he's like top 10 midfielders in the world. May he'd easily be there, but that does not mean that you like walk into a particular style of play. He is a very structured player. He needs to play a certain way. There
That's
has to
not
be
right.
structure around him which he can exploit. के उसको पता है कि
Yeah.
positional play हो रही है, एक player wide है, मेरा link up होगा with the forward dropping in, I can pass the ball to him, we'll create triangles and all of that. Madrid is not about creating triangles, it's about complete utter chaos. And you try to like tactically, people will say कि वो समझ नहीं आ रही तो ये कह दिया chaos, but the club actually wants to play that way because that's part of their identity. That is part of their how they set up. कि it's about attacking flair and it's about those moments, and it's a moments club, a miracle club. So उनका इस तरह होता है तो और the and मेरा तुम लोग pronunciation खराब करोगे, it's Odegaard, not Odegaard. So Odegaard जो है was basically would I would don't think he necessarily fits into that system, um, but he is genuinely world class. Like उसके बगैर Arsenal are a different team. When he is playing, then Arsenal can play four different styles of play when they have possession and when they're out of possession. When he's not playing, they can only play one or two ways. So
Yeah,
I mean,
I will.
The
I will just say one thing to your point about Odegaard being the best. वो मैं इसमें when I talk about Saka, जिसके उसमें मैं बात कर रहा हूँ ना, I feel like even when their biggest creator isn't there, Saka has the ability to just make something out of nothing. And जितनी वो defense उनकी खींच के side पे कर लेता है ना, in terms of just taking down players with him to create space. इंटेग्रल उसका एंड फैक्ट इज कि हमने ये बहुत दफा बात की हुई है इंजरी सबकी होती है यू हैव टू दे वर अप टू वन डिस्पाइट दोज इंजरीज एंड आई फील लाइक दिस सीजन लाइक इफ दिस वाज लास्ट सीजन आई वुड 100% एक्सपेक्ट आर्सेनल टू गो एंड विन दिस मुझे कोई डाउट नहीं होना था बट दिस सीजन इवन आफ्टर लाइक द बोर्नमथ मैच जिसपे इनका कोई काम नहीं है बोर्नमथ से इतने बुरे से हारना इवन बीइंग वन प्लेयर डाउन और
yeah.
लाइक द जो व्हेन यू टॉकिंग अबाउट कि उन्होंने सीज मेंटालिटी क्रिएट कर ली हुई है I see that less this season in comparison to the last season or the last season before उससे because अब ये लोग पता नहीं like he's maybe overthinking it a bit I feel like sometimes कि मुझे नहीं नजर आ रहा but वो जो उनका start होना चाहिए था I think they should have been like closer but at least they should have been at least they could have had an unbeaten run at the end अभी इस वक्त at the early start of the season at this point.
Yeah, I think one of the major things that I am completely like people talk about Arsenal's invincibles. Okay, what a great team that was. But if you like Arsenal's invincibles, do not win the league title if Pep's Manchester City get 100 point. So like
Yeah,
unbeaten is not a thing that you should aspire to. A lot of draws necessarily are not great. You're still losing 2 points instead of three when
yeah,
you draw a game. So that's one thing. Okay, Arsenal need to find a way to win these games rather than just cross the line at a draw at one point. जहां तक like I completely agree with you कि एक player के जाने से अगर आपका पूरा season collapse कर जाए तो that should not be the case, but that is the case in a lot of clubs
yeah,
because वो एक player जो होता है ना उसमें उसमें ये नहीं है कि वो difference maker है, उसमें ये है कि वो balance provide कर रहा है टीम को. Like
yes,
what Saka does, no one else in that Arsenal team can do, right?
yeah,
But what someone else can do is provide the same width. If
yeah,
Saka is not there, can provide the same width. Can systematically still spread the field that much कि आपके midfielders can then run in and आपके जो Havertz वगैरह they get space and they create space for others as well midfield runners के लिए. But Odegaard what he does वो उस तरह का player नहीं है उनके पास. There's no one who can you know quickly lay off the ball, slow the pace down when he wants to,
yeah,
uh, be a press resistant player अगर दूसरी टीम आपको प्रेस कर रही है. एंड ऑल्सो लाइक उसकी सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट चीज विच पीपल फॉरगेट इज के ही इज लिटरली अ प्रेसिंग मशीन. कि वो
yes,
जिस तरह वो प्रेस करता है एंड उसकी जो शैडो प्रेसिंग है इज सेकंड टू नन. वन ऑफ द बेस्ट प्रेसर इन द वर्ल्ड. नॉर्मली जो अच्छे प्रेसिंग प्लेयर्स होते हैं ना अगर आप अराउंड द वर्ल्ड उठाकर देख लें तो वो बॉल के ऊपर इतने अच्छे नहीं होते, ज्यादातर भागते हैं सब कुछ करते हैं बट ही इज ऑल्सो गुड ऑन द बॉल. सो लाइक
yeah.
वो रेयर ही इज अ वेरी रेयर काइंड ऑफ प्लेयर. सो आई थिंक दैट्स व्हाई दे मिस हिम.
रेहान भाई ओरिजिनल क्वेश्चन अराउंड स्लॉट आई थिंक वो सोच रहा होगा कि मतलब इतना हवा बनाया हुआ था प्रीमियर लीग का एंड ये तो दिस इज लाइक जस्ट अ वॉक इन द पार्क. मैं इस स्क्वाड के साथ ओवर परफॉर्म कर रहा हूँ. एंड स्पीकिंग ऑफ बॉल्ड डच मैनेजर्स हम साय में
We
ही
got the
पढ़ते
wrong
हैं.
one. We got the
We
wrong
got
one.
the wrong one. So just a quick one, as promised, just a couple of minutes on United, वरना दिल खराब होगा. It was another repeat of a good half followed by a bad half. Lots of goal scoring chances not finished. United have now finished maybe 50% of their XG chances, and XG पे बहुत ज़्यादा hate मिलती है, and it seems like I'm clutching at straws, but clearly नज़र आ रहा है कि डायलो खाली गोल के सामने जाके खड़ा हुआ है और उससे फिनिश नहीं हो रहा. Clearly नज़र आ रहा है कि नाचो finishes and buries these chances over and over again, but just didn't this time around. And there is something awful at United. I think थोड़ी सी debate शुरू हो जाएगी on coach and what the coach is doing wrong.
Awful
But
at United.
clearly, यार मतलब I don't know if I'm clutching at straws or not, but there's something he's doing right in the system, whereby he's creating so many XG chances. Number fifth
Oh, bhai.
number fifth in the league
एक second,
when it comes to XG chances, but
ठीक है. Let
finishing
him
only half of them.
Okay, fine. Let's take your argument and let's put it on the other side. Okay, now number one, कि अगर आपने XG के ऊपर बात करनी है, XG पॉइंट्स के ऊपर, I'm not talking about XG goals, XG पॉइंट्स के ऊपर बात करनी है, तो फुलहम should be second in the league,
Yeah.
right? नंबर टू ये है कि बिफोर पीपल जंप ऑन XG एंड से कि ये क्या XG की बात कर रहे हो, ये वो अगर आप फुटबॉल फॉलो करते हैं तो मेरी आपसे रिक्वेस्ट ये है कि आप XG को वैल्यू और वेट देना शुरू कर दें, बिकॉज वेंगर मेड इट मेन स्ट्रीम बिफोर एनीवन एल्स डिड.
Yeah.
Every football coach in the world uses XG and XP. From Pep Guardiola to Tuchel. Tuchel ने भी अपने recent interview में भी कहा है कि now it's becoming public, but they always had this data available to them. One of the things that people forget is कि मार्चेलो लिपी की जो यूवेंटस की टीम थी in the late 90s, मार्चेलो लिपी had this thing of not इतना स्पेस आपके प्लेयर्स के दरमियान में ना हो कि someone can run through them. And ये अरीगो साकी का उससे भी पुराना है. So if you go way back, even when data was not available, तो ये चीजें वहां पे एग्जिस्ट करती थी कि अगर स्पेस इतना हो तो चांसेस ऑफ स्कोरिंग अ गोल इतने कम हो जाएंगे.
Yes.
तो XG इवन तब होता था, अब उसको न्यूमेरिकल वैल्यू दे दी गई हुई है, तो इसलिए XG इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, राइट? इवेंचुअली अगर आप ओवर 38 गेम्स देखेंगे, अगर आपका XG अच्छा होगा तो इवेंचुअली लॉ ऑफ एवरेजेस विल टेक ओवर एंड यू विल गेट देयर. नाउ दैट्स पार्ट वन ऑफ इट. पार्ट टू ऑफ इट इज व्हिच वलीद मेंशन्ड के मैनचेस्टर यूनाइटेड आर नंबर 5 in terms of XG goals created. Can Waleed tell me where they are in terms of XG against them? I think, yeah, please.
Hey, as a United fan, I would like to highlight that our XG against is around 16, and we've conceded 11 goals. So people playing against us have been abysmal in terms of their shooting.
Yes. So basically
कहना चाह रहे हैं
what you're
United as a
telling is
club is
कि
horrible.
आपके खिलाफ जो
United
टीम
as a club
खेलती
is
है,
horrible. ना गोल करते हैं ना करने देते हैं.
yeah,
Just
fair
spoils the
enough.
football for everyone.
And yeah. Also, like the other thing here on the XG thing is कि one of the things that now happens in football, and it's been happening a lot lately, and ये because American sports से ये चीज आई है, तो उसमें ये डेटा एनालिटिक्स के ऊपर रिलायंस जो है वो आहिस्ता आहिस्ता बढ़ती जा रही है. तो पहले ये होता था कि कोचेज यूज्ड टू टेल देयर प्लेयर्स कि तुम अगर इधर से शूट मारोगे तुम्हारी XG हायर होगी, तो यू नीड टू मूव इनटू दिस पोजीशन एंड वील क्रिएट स्पेस फॉर यू इन दीस पोजीशंस. जो पोजिशनल प्ले की बार बार बात करते हैं कि पेप गार्डियोला ये करता है या फलाना ये करता है, दैट इज टू क्रिएट स्पेसेस इन पोजीशंस जहां पे आपका गोल स्कोरिंग probability becomes higher, right?
Yeah.
Now, when you are doing that, the second part of that is कि how to convert those chances, which is also then down to the
Coaching.
coaching, right? So अब आप ये नहीं मुझे कह सकते कि XG यूनाइटेड की अंडर परफॉर्मेंस ऑन XG जो है, इट्स नॉट लाइक यूनाइटेड इसी सीजन अंडर परफॉर्म कर रही है ऑन XG. यूनाइटेड चांसेस मिस करना और चांसेस देना दोनों यूनाइटेड के
यार
खिलाफ.
कोचिंग छोड़ दें, कोचिंग भी छोड़ दें. मैं कहता हूँ कोचिंग भी छोड़ दें. बात सिर्फ इतनी सी है कि आप अगर यही मसला है तो देन व्हाई आर यू ब्रिंगिंग स्ट्राइकर्स दैट कैन नॉट स्कोर? मतलब प्लेयर आइडेंटिफिकेशन भी सही करो ना
यार. आई एग्री बट ऑल्सो द फैक्ट कि यार प्लेयर, यानी मैं ये जो ओल्ड स्कूल नंबर 9s है ना, वो आई डू नॉट नेसेसरली एग्री विद देम एनी लॉन्गर. Yes, you have the Mbappes and Lewandowskis of this world, but mostly जो high scoring teams होती हैं उनका number 9 isn't exactly a number 9. Like he moves to the left, he moves to the right, he creates space for your midfield runners and all. United don't even know कि उनको actual number 9 चाहिए या उनको midfield runners के लिए space create करने के लिए कोई चाहिए. So they, like the confusion exists at a ideological level कि what they want to do. And जहां तक like I know you guys said कि हमने कम बात करनी, मेरा सवाल अभी तक वहां पर वापस आता है कि हाउ कैन यू एंचेलोटी चैंपियंस लीग 2 दफा जीता है पिछले 3 सीजंस में, ला लीगा जीता है, एंड ही माइट एक्चुअली गेट सैक्ड इवेंचुअली, राइट? एंड यू हैव दिस गाय, right? Who, and also by the way, people forget कि Ancelotti जो अपनी पहली चैंपियंस लीग जीता था in the second stint with 2022 वाली, that was
Yeah.
supposed to be a stopgap season when Ancelotti came in for one season, and Madrid का बस ये था ये सीजन गुजार लो, अगले साल हम प्लेयर साइन कर लेंगे.
Yeah.
They actually ended up winning it. So it's not like, you know, Eric Ten Hag से इतना प्यार कहाँ से आता है? I
I
don't
don't
get it.
know. And I'm not going to let Waleed speak on this anymore because अब बहुत ज़्यादा हो गया है, ठीक है? हर दफ़ा आके एक मेरे फ़ोन पे ग्रुप्स में हर जगह आके नहीं यार उसके साथ ज़्यादती हो रही है, ज़्यादती हो रही है, ज़्यादती हो रही है, नहीं हो रही ज़्यादती यार. मैं अभी एग्जांपल दे रहा हूँ. We're going to cover the Derby d'Italia later because अब हमारा थोड़ा टाइम ज़्यादा हो गया. So this rant is the last thing I'm doing and then we're going to sign off. मोटा के यूवे के अंदर इम्प्रिंट अभी से नजर आना शुरू हो गया है, ठीक है, एंड इट लुक्स ब्यूटीफुल. स्लॉट केम इन, सीमलेस ट्रांजिशन. पोस्ट कोगलू अभी भी उसका इम्प्रिंट नजर आ गया है. एमरे एस्टन विला नजर आ रहा है हमें अभी. फ्लिक बार्सिलोना नजर आ रहा है इम्प्रिंट. तो भाई एक हम ही रह गए जिसका कोई इम्प्रिंट नहीं नजर आता. 3 साल हो गए भाई, मतलब बस हो गई है. हार वेस्ट हर एरे गहरे से हार के चले जाते हैं, उसके बाद जाके और फिर बैठ के ओ वी प्लेड वेल, हमारा ड्रॉ बहुत अच्छा था. पोर्टो और फर्नेबाचे अच्छी मुश्किल जगह नहीं है जाना. क्या हो गया है?
यार आई थिंक मैं सिर्फ इसमें एक पॉइंट करूंगा. मैं आई एम नॉट फेड अप ऑफ एरिक टेन हाग्स ऑन
यार
फील्ड.
अच्छा यार.
I'm not fed up of his on field things, ठीक है. I'm fed up of his interviews, ठीक है. कि he has excuses for everything, and वो जो आपने अभी कहा कि इंग्लिश फुटबॉल में रेफरिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स बहुत गिर गए हैं and blah blah blah. I would
हाँ.
believe that if Eric Ten Hag did not cry wolf every weekend, like he always has an excuse rather than owning up to the fact कि हमसे ये गलतियां हो रही हैं, हम इन गलतियों पे काम करें. Like कोई भी गलती ठीक करने के लिए पहले गलती आइडेंटिफाई करनी है. अगर आप मान ही नहीं रहे कि हम में ये गलती है, तो हाउ आर यू गोइंग टू डू इट?
उसने टॉटनम वाला मैच जो है उसने एक राइट ऑफ कर दिया. उसने कहा है कि यार उसमें ब्रूनो को रेड कार्ड हो गया था. आई डोंट कंसीडर दैट अ लॉस.
ब्यूटीफुल.
भाई क्या बात कर रहा है तू? ये क्या बात है? हाउ डज दैट मेक सेंस?
बात
इट
तो सही कर
डजंट.
रहा है.
बट मतलब वी आई एम नॉट गोइंग लाइक
उस केस में उस केस में वार नहीं आ रहा है, इस केस में आ रहा है. बात तो सही कर.
अबे ये रे यार गाइस, थैंक यू सो मच.
नहीं नहीं यार
थैंक यू
भाई,
सो मच फॉर
बात
ट्यूनिंग
लंबा
इन.
होने दो. लंबा होने दो एपिसोड, कुछ नहीं होता. अगर आपने डार्बी दी इटालिया नहीं कवर की तो इट वुड बी नॉट फेयर.
Fine. So Raz is a huge matchup जिसमें Inter versus Juve were facing off. It was a Derby d'Italia. It was a big match because Motta ki like this was one of his tests that he had to overcome. The match ended as a spectacular 4-4 strife of mistakes. हर बंदे ने जो गलती कर सकता था उसमें की थी. But the football was amazing. It was great football. And the best thing that I saw was that this is a Juve which has a completely different outlook from what I've seen over the last decade. वो जो अलेग्री हराम बॉल थोड़ी सी जो अब सीपन हो चुकी हुई थी उनके उसके अंदर, वो अब निकल के द ट्रांजिशन दैट दे मेड दिस रैपिडली कि यार उनका सिंपल 4-3-2-1 4-3-3 के ऊपर वो वापस आ गया है with Mota, and it looks so good कि like मतलब and it's not only just that, but the players that they brought in Thuram has been excellent. Kululu was he's probably their unsung hero for this season. Everything has come in really well for them, and last night being down by 2 goals and then making up and Yildiz brace later on was just fantastic. And it's like, and Motra very summed it up very aptly कि हाँ इंजागी सही रो रहा है कि they had chances to kill the game off, but हम लोग we held on there. हम लोग कभी भी we never put our head down at any point in time, and we made sure कि हम इसको मैच को हम खत्म करके जाएंगे, and we ended up with a draw and we're very happy with it. कि मतलब we didn't play as well, but to walk away at a 4-4 draw, we're very content with it. So मतलब I'm very excited with this new chapter of Serie A जहाँ पे Napoli is Conte ने अपने tactics change कर लिए हैं. Juve is on the uprise again. Inter is still like doing really well. AC is doing well as AC can, but like this is a very nice break from the garbage that I have to see on the Prem from my team on a weekly basis.
I think I just wanted to set up something for Derby d'Italia is ke ये rivalry is one of the biggest rivalries across Europe. It's like not at the level of El Clasico, but Inter Milan versus Juventus has a huge history to it. And the history stems from the fact that years of political differences between the two cities, the two biggest cities, and then also a lot of controversy as well. So latest controversy जो है वो Calciopoli scandal का सबको पता होगा, which was happened in 2004-5-6, जहां पर
Yes.
यूवेंटस के सारे टाइटल्स इंटर मिलान को दे दिए गए थे बिकॉज ऑफ फिक्सिंग एलिगेशंस. And basically Juventus fans and Juventus as a city and Turin as a city also has issues with Milan. So all of
Yeah.
these factors come into play. It is a huge game. It is unlike any other. Like इटली में ये जरूर होता है कि आपकी लोकल डार्बी जो होती है उसको बहुत अटेंशन दी जाती है, बट बिटवीन टू डिफरेंट सिटीज इतनी ह्यूज राइवलरी इज
इतना
इंटर
नहीं
एंड
होता. Yeah.
yeah, and Inter and Juve is really, really huge because of the political context of it, because of how Turin is based and how Milan is, like which
Yeah.
city is supposed to be the capital, not the actual capital, but the commercial and cultural capital. So उसके ऊपर ये काफी इनकी चलती रहती है. और इनकी लड़ाई, I think one of the interesting stories जो कि मैं लोगों को कहूँगा कि go back to and search on this, के 60s के अंदर इन दोनों टीमों का एक मैच हो रहा था जिसमें one team was winning and the referee awarded the match to the other team. And then there was this whole scandal of how one team was controlling the referees and how they were paying off the referees and the referees were paid off. And then basically Italian football ने ये कहा कि ये मैच दोबारा होगा, so let's play a rematch of this. तो जो टीम वो मैच जीत रही थी उसने अपनी बी टीम भेज दी वो मैच खेलने के लिए, and that team got completely destroyed and annihilated. And next thing
Yes.
कि both teams are labeling acquisitions at each other कि इसकी family influential है, इस club की owner की family. So don't forget the fact the owners of these two clubs, not just now, like over the last 40-50 years, have had each other's have been at each other's throat. They hate each other. um, और पॉलिटिकल इन्फ्लुएंस इन इटली इन दोनों फैमिलीज का आपस में इतने सालों से चल रहा है कि यस इट इज अ ह्यूज राइवलरी इवन नाउ जब वो थोड़ी सी टेंशन कम हुई है, तो इट इज अ ह्यूज
Yeah.
राइवलरी बिकॉज द हिस्ट्री ऑफ दिस फिक्सचर.
100%. And वो the problem is कि like everybody was celebrating Juve's downfall for the last 4-5 years. बड़े खुश थे कि यार ये अब नीचे बैठे हुए हैं, इनको चुप करा के नीचे ही रहने दो. But now that they started coming on, अब intensity बढ़ना शुरू हो गई है. And Inzaghi's anger was stemming from the सिर्फ like the state of the match. I've never seen him this upset. Like he gets upset, but उसने उसका वो जो stem कर रहा था वो literally सिर्फ इस चीज के अंदर से कर रहा था कि this match has that significance in it कि यार ये हमें जीतना था. And when you're 4-2 up, it's not that big of an ask कि हमें ये खत्म कर देना चाहिए था. Credit to Juve for hanging in, and Yildiz came in, completely changed the game. It was beautiful. मुझे बड़ा मजा आया था उसके अंदर. And I think Mota का जो बोलोनिया साइड का आपने देखा ही है कि उसने कितना किया था. But what are your thoughts on like how he's been carrying Juve so far, यार?
यार आई थिंक उसका वन ऑफ द मेजर थिंग्स दैट आई वांट टू टॉक अबाउट इज कि उसका पोजिशनल प्ले की जो एवोल्यूशन चाबी अलोंसो और मोता जैसे जो कोचेस लेके आए, इट्स अनबिलीवेबल, इट्स रियली गुड टू वॉच बिकॉज पोजिशनल प्ले को उन्होंने इस तरह चेंज किया कि विद इन दोज पोजिशंस दे हैव अलाउड रोटेशंस. सो नाउ यू डोंट हैव अ फिक्स्ड पोजिशनल प्लेयर. लाइक अब आप ये नहीं कहते कि राइट पे अगर तुम हो तो तुमने राइट से अंदर नहीं आना. अब ये कि
Yeah.
अगर वो राइट से अंदर आएगा तो वन ऑफ योर अदर प्लेयर्स हैज टू गो आउट वाइड.
Oh,
So
go out,
it is
yeah.
still positional play, but with a lot more freedom and a lot more movements and interchange between players, and that's what
Yeah.
Xabi Alonso, Mota both have done this. जहाँ तक मैं and I would really want to talk about Inzaghi, the better of the two brothers, Simeone Inzaghi. He's one of my favorite people. It's just his football understanding and coaching. And अगर आप like, I am intrigued by Italian football, and one of the reasons is when Italian football में किसी भी बंदे ने कोच बनना होता है तो they have to do a thesis paper
Yeah.
and qualify करना. वो thesis paper is made public. So thesis paper is about the style of football you want to play, your inspirations and all of that. तो Inzaghi का is one of the most fascinating things that I've ever come across. Pirlo का भी बहुत interesting है if you haven't read it.
Yeah, I
So
have.
like you go through these people and you see कि why the best coaches in the world always come from two places. I know Spain के अभी काफी आने लगे हैं. It's Argentina and Italy always.
Italy. Yeah.
Because tactically these two countries उनका जितना discourse है is unbelievable. Like unki football doesn't exist in a vacuum. When they are writing about football, it is writing about people. It's writing about culture.
Yeah.
It is writing about yani the best writers in the world जो फुटबॉल पे लिखते हैं in South America are also their best political writers. So वो जो
Yes.
बात है ना कि हमारे यहाँ पे तो कह देंगे क्रिकेट पे कमेंट कर रहा है फुटबॉल पे कैसे कर रहा है तो the same guy is doing political writing and doing political writing because they feel कि football is the essence and is part of the society and everything
Yes.
that comes out of football reflects on your society and ऊपर से जो political influences नीचे आ रहे हैं वो आपकी गेम पे reflect करता है. So that's why
Yeah.
I find Italian football, history of Italian football intriguing. I find South American football absolutely intriguing. Like there's actual history to it rather than कि कोट पहन के मैच पे आ जाओ और हम जिगड़ा बड़ा करो और बदमाशी दिखाओ और कॉलर फाड़ दो. There's actual tactical understanding.
What a nice this sounds very English के higher tenacity. You just
नहीं
don't
वो
want it more.
I
You
wanted
didn't want it now. Didn't want it more. And you
Valverde
will.
to answer this कि
नहीं नहीं
वो
I
Roy Keane वाला जो
इस
होता है.
इसमें ना I do have this question. So early 2000s में the narrative was that जो Italian football में management होती है, जो game management होती है, that is at a whole different level to what you guys are doing. And even Hansi Flick भी यही कहता है कि जो Giovanni Trapattoni ने मेरे लिए किया है for me in my career and for the football that we started watching early 2000s जब Italy used to play हम मतलब कहते रहते हैं बहुत defensive है बहुत slow है but tactically they just set up completely differently or used to and those guys had a huge influence on football for that period that total football versus what और वो जो रोक के खेलने वाली football है.
Yeah, so I 100% and like Italian football is reduced to the fact it's very defensive, but like तुम early 2000s की बात कर रहे हो Italian football between 1980 and 1998 for 18 years Serie A was easily the best league in the world. Serie A teams used to reach finals of European cups all the time. बाद में उसका नाम Champions League हो गया. बेचारे हार जाते थे finals इतने जीते नहीं थे but they were regularly there. Juventus, I think, reached 3 consecutive finals, lost one.
Yeah.
Rigo Sacchi की जो team थी, the great Milan team, also that team. So, like, tactically, Italy was so far ahead of everyone else. And there's a lot of, like, Italy and Argentina, like, a lot of influence between the two countries as well and transferring thoughts and all. So, Italy, one of the reasons that Italian football or Italian coaches की जो तुम बात कर रहे हो, वो ये है कि they don't just stick to one thing. And Dutch football में भी influence आया था through Johan Cruyff and all. And उसमें ये था कि they're not thinking about it just in terms of football. What they're talking about is कि they're taking influences from hockey, they're taking influences from other sports, other team sports on how positional play is done. Then their priority has always been very result oriented कि
Yeah.
इतनी space अगर हम compress कर देंगे तो इतने lesser chances of scoring goals हो जाएंगे.
Yeah.
And even Sir Alex Ferguson, who I consider one of the greatest managers of all time, he was hugely influenced from Marcello Lippi. And उसने जो अपनी चैंपियंस लीग की टीम रीडेवलप की थी of how
Yeah.
to
उसने उसके हिसाब से बनाई थी.
yeah
Yep.
was based on Lippi's वो वाली
He's
team और
been very vocal about his admiration and like कि मैंने कितना उसकी चीजें
yeah
चोरी की हैं उसके अंदर से.
and Pep Guardiola would not have been the manager that he is had he
Bielsa.
not gone to Roma. So there's that. अगर आप अभी भी influences देखें तो all the big coaches in the world, think of anyone who are doing well, have either Argentinian influence or Italian influence. So like there are two, I think, basic schools of thoughts that people need to understand. We do a separate episode on this. Is one is the Bilardo school of thought and one is the Menotti
Yeah.
school of thought. Bilardo is Jose Mourinho के by
Yes.
hook or crook जीतना है और अगर आपको लगता है गंदी फुटबॉल वो होती है तो बिलार्डो ने अपने प्लेयर्स को कहा था कि अपनी जेब के अंदर नेल्स रखो
चुरिया.
ठीक है तो वो नेल्स रख के दूसरे को चुबाते थे अपने आप को मार के कहते थे इसने मुझे मारा है और रेड कार्ड दे दिया
Yeah. Yeah.
तो यानी बिलार्डो won the 1986 World Cup with Argentina and then there's a Menotti school of thought which is के we'll play attacking football, we'll play expansive football, we'll
Purist
poetry,
उसका
it is poetry, it is about culture and all and basically he was inspired by Pakistan hockey or जो overlaps and 2-on-1 situations on wide wings है that comes from hockey especially
यानी
Pakistan
हमारी अगली वीडियो तुम दे रहे हो बस कर दो ये हमारी
हाँ
अगली
तो
वीडियो है
वो
पूरी
उसके ऊपर हम पूरी बात करेंगे and then that
That's okay. This is him talking to the only 5 people who are left still watching the What I Did.
भाई फुटबॉल वाले तो 5 भी
वैसे
नहीं
भी
होते
फुटबॉल वीडियो आपको पता है फुटबॉल वीडियो पे like it tanks every time because
या
ये हमने यहाँ तक पहुँच
only
गए
have
भाई
like a
कभी
hardcore
देख देख
group
के
of 5-10 loyalists.
No, but I think Serie A की the places that Serie A is going is very positive. The places where La Liga की जो rise Barcelona is a good thing to see Barcelona on track. United अभी भी टट्टी है और वो रहेंगी भी probably for the foreseeable future टट्टी तो I'm going to give up on that. Thank you guys for tuning. नहीं रेहान खत्म
नहीं
बात
नहीं नहीं
रेहान
वन
बस यार।
लास्ट थिंग देखो मोर जितना बजट ब्राइटन या मिड टेबल इंग्लिश टीम्स का ना उतना टॉप इटालियन टीम्स का है ठीक है
बस कर दे यार।
खुदा का
अच्छा
वास्ता कंपेयर मत
ठीक है
किया करो लानत इंग्लिश टीम्स पे कि वो अभी नहीं जीते
मैं जा रहा हूँ थैंक यू गाइस फॉर ट्यूनिंग इन वी स्टार्टेड दिस ऑन लाइक अ वेरी हाई नोट बिकॉज हमें था रेहान की अंदर बाहर होएंगे बट एंड में हम ही रोके अब जा रहे हैं थैंक यू फॉर ट्यूनिंग इन मेक श्योर यू लाइक एंड
मैं
सब्सक्राइब
मुतमिन
बाय
हूँ बेबी
बाय